3/10 of a single second. On average, we live for 74 years. In this life that we live, most of our present and future is heavily dependent on the decisions that we make. Thinking is one of the greatest assets we have to make the right decisions, yet, most of us do not know how to make use of it. Research tells us that a typical healthy adult experiences roughly 6,200 thoughts a day. Despite knowing and even being reminded about the significance of critical thinking, we only spend 3/10 of a single second to make up our mind. The habit of making such instinctive decisions can become really unhealthy because research tells us that most of our decisions are driven by cognitive biases. Cognitive biases are these systematic errors in thinking and judgment making when our brain tries to use mental shortcuts to save energy and time. If you look at that path, you can see that there's two, one on the left and one on the right. Imagine that you are in a competition and your aim is to earn the most amount of points. If you choose to walk the path on my left, you have to walk 1,000 steps for 25 points. However, if you choose the second option, which is the one on the right, you have to walk 1,010 steps, so 10 more steps for 4 times the reward, so 100 points. Take a second to comprehend that. How many of us choose the first option, 1,000 for 25? How many of us choose the second one, 1,010 for 25? Great. Unfortunately, when it comes to decision making, most of the time we make instinctive choices instead of investing a few extra seconds to come up with a more thoughtful response. Beautiful, right? Okay, so that is a bowl filled with milk, fruits, and granola. How many of us agree that that bowl is healthy? Raise your hands, please. All right, I shouldn't have raised it. What if I told you that this bowl of granola has 300 grams of added sugar? I'm not that evil, trust me. But I won't blame you because you cannot see that sugar. And only a madman would be looking out for such quantities of added products into a charming breakfast. The way us humans perceive things is quite interesting, but it wasn't until the early 1900s that we got to know a lot about it. In 1920, a famous American psychologist, Edward Thorndike, published his research paper, A Constant Error in Psychological Ratings. For his experiment, he recruited a few military officers and tasked them with grading soldiers on different attributes. He noticed a trend forming. Soldiers who were graded higher on their physical fitness attributes also had a greater score for their intelligence and bravery. Obviously, those traits have rarely anything in common, so Thorndike knew that there was a problem. He later came to a conclusion that the officers fell victim to a cognitive biases, which is now called as the halo effect. The halo effect is a cognitive bias where our first impression on a thing or a person influences the way we judge its other specific traits. This psychological effect forces us to classify things as conventional binaries, so like traditional opposites, a simple or complex or good or a bad. This mental shortcut can have potent impacts on a person as it's a driving factor for how we judge and assess. Now imagine yourself as a hiring manager prepared to ask questions both you and I know have nothing in common to our work. However, this time, your job is to recruit the greatest scientific minds for an interstellar space mission. Pretty cool, right? Take a few seconds of your time and comprehend how you would prevent cognitive biases like the halo effect from taking over your decisions. This time around, you may be a little more conscious than previous. Maybe because your lives are in the hands of these minds, or you're just waiting for that lucrative promotion. Either way, raise your hands if you think you could make for a good one, a good hiring manager in this case. Yeah, there's no need to feel ashamed of, because it only takes a little research to know that 75% of the hiring managers show recruitment choices are bad. They often fall victim to multiple cognitive biases, usually being the halo effect. Now, what I want to really focus on is how we can overcome cognitive biases like the halo effect. For this, we use a very effective framework known as the pause framework. Pausing is the first step toward making less biased decisions. When we pause and observe, we get to know more. When you feel that sense of emotion trying to bring out a response within you, take a few seconds of your time and pause. When we listen, we give our brains something to comprehend, perspectives to explore, and mainly, understand the other side of the coin. When we look beyond this binary wall that we have, we allow ourselves to come up with new solutions. As you can see, this picture, right? This picture shows us that in different countries, the sound a frog makes is quite distinct. It's quite similar to in real life that we come across people who may have divergent opinions on various things. And that's a sign for us to not ignore, but to acknowledge. When we acknowledge their perspectives, we force ourselves to connect with them and to understand their views. And the next time you have to make a choice, ask yourself this question: on what basis did I really come up with this? The harsh truth is that our opinion is just another point of view. What we stand by or what we believe does not have to be the objective truth. This is a harsh reality that many face, but is what I believe could be one of the greatest progressive changes we can make. Finally, examine your options. When you do all of these hard steps of pausing, observing, acknowledging, you give yourself multiple options to look after and to look around. When you have these options, observe closely, read and analyze what would do best for you. We may not be experts in the field of psychology, neither am I, but I am sure all it takes a little bit of effort to make good decisions. Maybe the things that divide us are not really what they really are. They are just assumptions we make about one another. Ladies and gentlemen, our talk today might be really short, and it might end right now, but all I hope is that the meaning stays with you throughout your journey of life. Thank you.